So, welcome to the show. Today I have a guest, a great artist, Nikolas Larson, who is he's many types of media, but what I kind of know him first and foremost from is his street art, his chalk art, which is amazing, and I'll show you some of the images. But I just wanted to talk with him about how he got started, what he's learned, like making chalk art, and maybe how you guys, if you're interested in chalk art, can do something similar. So, Nicholas, or Nick, thank you for talking with us.
Cheers.
So, why don't you walk us through kind of how you, I guess, kind of a brief summary of like where your art has like come from and taken you over the years. Maybe, or just like kind of how you got into art and what your path has been.
Okay.
If that's not too general.
Sure. Well, I've been drawing and painting my whole life. Probably, I always used to joke that ever since I could probably hold a crayon or marker, preschool. But drawing and painting my whole life, and then went to art school. Of course, I'd taken art classes of various kinds and community level, and the Art Institute in Seattle, actually. And moved to San Francisco in '09 here. I've been drawing chalk for about 10 years or so. Kind of started out, I was at a friend's house and he had a little kid, left some chalks laying around on the steps, and I just kind of started playing around with it, and I don't know, just something kind of got out of control there. I pretty quickly became intrigued by the whole possibilities of what chalk could do, what it could be.
What is it specifically about chalk art that is different? What do you see as the big difference?
Well, I guess on a basic level, something drawn on the ground is puts it in kind of a different lens than other arts. I don't know what the significance of that exactly, but the fact that for a number of reasons, it's kind of an interesting niche in the art spectrum, because for one thing, it's a street art form that's legal. It's kind of a loophole. It's a product they give to kids. You could draw it and police will not mess with you, most likely. I mean, as long as it's nothing obscene or, dirty, I don't think the cops really could care less about that. Yeah.
Does that include buildings too, like, or walls?
That's drawing on property. I think that's kind of slightly different. But it's this kind of fun expression for drawing up in the public arena where you don't have to sneak around wearing a hoodie at night, Yeah. And the kids get it immediately. When you see kids coming along, they're like, wow, cool. It's almost like a gauge of how open somebody is to expression and new ideas when they come walking along and see what project I'm working on. Because if they're, I don't know, if they're kind of closed-minded, they're like, that kind of tightened face. But then a lot of people are like, wow, that's amazing. Good job. I get a lot of outpouring of thanks and, from the community. People tend to really love the work. Yeah.
Do you have, the only thing I've seen so far is your dragon, which is amazing. I think that's probably the largest chalk art I've ever seen. I've seen really good and detailed chalk art, but never that. I mean, that thing's, how long is that, would you say, 100 feet? It's long.
60 feet at least,
yeah, so,
something.
So do you have, consistent themes, or is it pretty much just whatever you're drawn to that day?
I don't know. All the subject matter tends to be either the geometric forms, usually circular mandala shapes,
yeah,
or figures and monsters in a kind of a fantasy fiction characters, fantasy and fashion kind of blending.
Huh.
I'm really drawn to 20s style fashion and Art Nouveau figures and kind of old-timey stuff, yeah. But then combining that with the geometric stuff. The geometric stuff is kind of static in a way. I find it more interesting to draw the faces and figures, yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know, that's an interesting question. I guess I've always found it somewhat intriguing. Symmetry is a huge artistic device that a lot of people kind of geek out on. exploring all the different permutations of it. There's been a lot of talk about sacred geometry in recent years, and so that's another angle of it which kind of interests me a lot. The forms found in nature and the universe,
Right.
which is something that's something for a whole other podcast, really. About I ponder like the design of a snowflake. It's almost like engineering principles in nature about the Fibonacci and these things that nature has found of efficient ways of organizing things. And then with something like a snowflake, you just have the natural buildup of blocks that form this particular shape according to physics and nature, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in Ireland and a couple of other places in the world, you have formations of rocks, lava tubes off the coasts where they form hexagonal columns of at times a very regular pattern.
I don't think I've seen those.
Never seen those?
Wait.
The Devil's Post Pile Monument is a park in California that has formations like that. I've never been there, but I heard about it. And then, yeah, off the coast of Ireland, I think it is. It's called the Giant's Causeway. So a lot of these things kind of really intrigue me about the organizational principles of the universe.
Kind of like nature making its own art. Or, I went to see a talk by, I forget his name, but the author of the book Unflattening. I don't know if you've heard of that. But he wrote this kind of nonfiction comic book, but he has a math background too. I don't know if you have a math background. But you seem definitely have an interest though.
I respect it, but I'm not very good at math. Yeah.
But math is, it's amazing. Like, people don't think of it as art or art related sometimes. A lot of people, and I think, you're right though. There is a definite connection between how nature produces forms and.
Yeah, I just was thinking for some reason of the book Cryptonomicon by Neil Stephenson.
I've been wanting to read this.
Where the character, this mathematician whiz in the book, has this whole perception of the universe as math is the skeleton of the universe. Math is the mathematical bones that underlie everything, and once you understand that, everything else just kind of falls into place. It's kind of the way to manipulate things.
Yeah, I've actually really been wanting to read Neil Stephenson.
Oh, yeah.
I've not made it to him.
Have you ever read any of his books?
No.
Oh, that's...
Should I start with that or Snow Crash? Tell me Snow Crash is good.
Yeah. Every one of his books is a distinctly different animal. Snow Crash is not anything like Cryptonomicon, and neither of them are anything like Seven Eves, the most recent one about generation ship. So, pretty intriguing stuff, yeah. The Diamond Age, that one was really interesting, about nanotech.
Yeah, that whole intersection of, I feel like we're getting into the point in human history where science and art are like kind of becoming much more closely tied than most people have thought about them for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But that was, but like, in the Renaissance, like Leonardo, like he thought of them like that way. My understanding was that for him, science and art tied together.
I don't think there is really much of a difference in a lot of cases. I'm very interested in the intersection that's happening with modern technology. Places like the Exploratorium, where they're definitely the artistic aspect of these things that they're building are definitely not lost on them. Yeah, it's very artsy. Where they have have you been to that place, the Exploratorium?
Yeah.
They have bacterial art paintings, and light, optical effects, all kinds of interesting stuff like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Did you see the walking sculptures?
No, I haven't seen those.
Well, there was this interesting exhibit running for a few months there. I think it just recently left. A Dutch guy was building wind-powered sculptures built out of PVC and sails that would walk on the beaches and stuff. And so this whole evolution, like, he was definitely looking at it as like the evolution of life forms with different almost algorithms. He would try different techniques and incorporate them into the next generation that he built to make them more refined. And there was a whole flow chart. It was fascinating.
Wow, this is we've gone in a totally different direction than I was expecting. That's great. But I do want to ask a few more questions about chocolate.
Yeah, let's talk about chalk.
So, for people getting started, what would you recommend?
Well, I guess the beauty of a product that you hand to kids is that there's no right or wrong way to go about it.
Or I guess maybe with materials, like is it like with paints where there's like bad cheap paints and really good, or does it not really matter? Can you just pretty much start with?
I don't know that it matters a whole lot. There's the grade B chalk that you get at discount stores. Chalk is incredibly cheap as an art medium, which is, not that's a non-trivial concern for artists when they end up spending huge amounts of money on supplies. Like, needless to say, you know how much oil paints cost and watercolors and everything else. It's like $9 for a little tube. So you can get a box of chalk from just straight up Crayola chalk out of the box is what I use. A box of 48 for $5, something like that,
nice.
Which has a pretty decent color range. The cheaper kits, they come in these little tubs, and a 3-color tub for like $3 or something, very cheap stuff. And then you just kind of go to it. And I suppose the difference, the technique that I use, which kind of adds to the overall effect, is kind of taking a vinyl or rubber glove and kind of rubbing it into the pavement a bit. Actually, did you see me? I guess I didn't do any drawing when you walked.
No.
So you're kind of, rather than using your fingertips, which I was doing that at first, but then I quickly realized you're going to abrade the skin on your fingertips over time, so you don't want to do that. So get these kind of vinyl gloves and just kind of bunch them up and kind of use it as kind of a brush to kind of rub into the pavement and to kind of blend the colors together. And then take a plastic lid to kind of fan the excess dust off all the material, which is all the excess material chalk, to keep the whole design clean, because if you don't, that gets everywhere. It gets tracked all over your design.
Yeah.
So when kids draw chalk, it usually looks like crap because they're not conscious of this factor. They're drawing and going crazy, and they're not stopping to clean up as they're going along, which is to get these incredibly precise, clean drawings that I've done a lot, hundreds of.
Yeah. People
trip out on that because they're like, how did you do this so precise? I mean, it's like laser beam precision sometimes with the geometry.
So do you do like a really light sketch to figure out where things are first, or do you just kind of do it as you go along?
The technique, maybe we should have to do a video demonstrating this at some point. That would be the next step.
Are you still working on the dragon?
Yeah, I finished the first one over there, and then I had more space, so I started a second one.
Okay.
So with the circular mandalas, there's a whole technique to this, and there is actually a time-lapse video, I should show you that, but I'll start with a point, draw a point to mark the center out, and then I'll have a template of whatever number of arms of the star I want to start with, whether it's like 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. Have a template that shows the angles, line that up, and then mark where they are, and then just kind of propagate outward from there. And so I'll like draw the spines or spokes of the wheel, whatever you want to call them, to the edges of the circle, and then just kind of cross connect the points. It's not a matter of measuring numbers, but I'll just like measure some distances so that they all are the same. Whatever change or addition you make to one arm, you make that all the way around to all of them. So it's really kind of like the technique of Tinker Toys or snap and connect, point and connect kind of design. It's really, not much to it.
Yeah.
The circle design to make the large circles I use with string. That's an ancient method. Just have it weighted down in the center with the object or a person, and then pull the line taut, draw the circle around the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I have smaller film reels and plastic templates for the smaller circles and shapes.
Yeah, you sound like you have a lot of techniques that are probably beyond the scope of this video, but we talked a little about you starting a class or maybe doing videos. So for anyone interested in this, look below the video. In the future or now, whatever he has that I can link to, I will definitely link to below and check his stuff out. It's really amazing, but I just wanted to get the general
pointers.
But anything we can link to, any videos you already have, I'll link to as well.
It did take years to learn all this crap, so
yeah. What are your the biggest challenges to it?
Well, it's kind of physically strenuous as an art form. There's a lot of kind of crouching and getting up and standing, and
Yeah.
It's kind of like scrubbing a floor, really. I mean, it's pretty hard work. That's probably one reason a lot of people don't do this the way I do. A lot of chalk artists have just knee pads they wear of some kind.
Yeah.
So the physical grit of it is kind of a challenge.
What if it's like some of the mistakes that you made in the beginning? Are there anything that you wish you had known like right away that you've learned that took you years to learn? Or
that's a good question.
I mean, I'm sure your technique that's not something you can really learn overnight. But is there any like for like amateurs that are just starting out, like things that you would recommend? Like you said, like knee pads, gloves, anything like that they can do like right away that save them a lot of trouble.
I think I mean, I'm not really entirely sure how to answer that one. I think that one of the strengths of the medium is its blendability. It's like, kind of changes the whole game when you're working with the vinyl glove and blending that way, because that changes the texture on the sidewalk usually. And if you're blending colors together, you can get beautiful gradients, and it becomes almost like a painterly kind of process.
I didn't realize you could do blending with chalk.
A lot of the mode is building contrasts, both with light and dark and warm and cool.
Yeah.
So you don't have a whole lot of color range with your out-of-the-box Crayola box set. It's a very Eastery kind of color range, really. A lot of pastels. So if you're trying to make a composition that's a lot of different colors, then the ones you put next to each other or blend, with these contrasts would be like the lighter or the darker values, or the ones that are more like complementary on the color wheel, if possible.
Yeah,
like orange and blue or whatever.
So the mixing though, the colors, it's not like mixing like paint. I think that's the only mixing I can think of. It's more like just like putting two pieces of glass on top of each other, and maybe they're really light colored so that they kind of.
Well, with the dragon that I finished over there, in each individual like strand of the dragon's scales, a lot of them I twisted the colors together, blending. By putting the colors on top of each other, you get these interesting gradient effects.
Yeah.
And then when you have a big mass of these shapes, it kind of creates a visual vibration. It's really kind of a neat thing.
Were there any like books or any resources that you used, or no? It's just like other drawing, like regular drawing books.
Like for references.
I mean, like, was there any like specific books or that helped you? Not really.
A lot of times when I'm starting a composition, I'll have like a pencil drawing laid out from like a good blueprint for how I want a figure to look if I'm drawing a figure design. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I'll draw those from photographs I see on the internet or in books or magazines that I come across. And then, since everything is a remix in life, as we know, blending that with some kind of interesting trappings from some decoration of some culture, or I tend to think of my work as pan-cultural, if that's not too cheesy of a name, in that I'll draw these like priestess figures of women with like Aztec elements or Hindu elements or whatever culture, but not really belonging to any of them. I suppose this is kind of goes along with my whole like tarot card project. For many years I've been designing a deck of tarot cards, and I painted some of the figures. And again, it's kind of like pan-cultural, like I'm kind of just making all these elements in my own style. That's how I think of it.
Yeah. I didn't know that. Actually, the tarot is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like I would like to actually do like I'm kind of, at some point down the line, would like to do a digital kind of tarot app that I've been thinking about. But I mainly work digitally. But yeah, that's awesome.
The whole aspect of archetypes of Jungian psychology definitely plays into the whole tarot. So as a vehicle for exploring the subconscious, it's quite valuable, and understanding these archetypes of human behavior. Yeah.
All this stuff I didn't know anything about that you were interested in, so I'm really glad we got a chance to interview you.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, like I said before, look below. We've talked about him starting classes, so if you're in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, look below, and I will link to any classes he has started if he does, and any videos he may do, things like that. So this is really an exciting medium, I think, for sharing your art. And if you do want to learn it, like, this is definitely somebody who knows how to do it. So thank you very much, Nick, for speaking with us.
You're welcome.
All right.